With debt still at high levels, some households and businesses may be unable to keep up with payments. If loan losses occur on a large enough scale, banks could cut back on lending in response. This would exacerbate the economic downturn and put more pressure on businesses and households.
Financial stress in the Canadian economy is really bad in 2025, and it's something that keeps me up at night. The housing, the affordability, the price increases on everything, the inflation. And my child is about to be born as well, so geez, Logan, my God, if you're watching this video into the future and you're watching my YouTube channel, archived as it may be, yeah, pretty brutal out there. Hopefully things got better for you, buddy, because right now it is not looking too good, and we're going to discuss it in today's video. The financial system in Canada, it is really on the decline.
Hi. So I've got a question for people who are smarter than me and have more time to actually do the research. But for the housing crisis in Canada, who's responsible? Like, how did that start? How did that start? Was it Harper? Because I keep seeing TikToks about it being Harper opening up to corporations and foreign investors. Then I've also seen TikToks where they're like, but it's actually the province that is responsible for having maintained that unaffordability. So what is it? Is it the federal government? Is it the provincial government? I'd really like to know. Please stitch or duet this, because I think it's probably going to be more than what a comment section can address. But yeah, I'm wondering, like, what portion of corporations are actually in residential housing? What's the percentage of foreign investors in residential housing? Is it just urban? Is it suburban? Is it rural? Is it just everywhere? Is it a combination? Or I'm super interested, in part because I would like to talk to whoever's responsible, or at the very least canvass, and try and figure out, what can be done, if anything.
Well, it's definitely a combination of everything, but there's definitely a lot of foreign investors in Canada buying up housing. A lot of big companies like Brookfield are also buying up housing. And then you also just have that mindset that a lot of baby boomers had, because housing was cheap back then, that they financialized the whole housing economy. Instead of putting money in just companies in the stock market, people have stocks and ETFs just for housing. Housing is such a financialized part of the economy in Canada that it really is destroying the entire society, because housing should be a right, or should at least be affordable so families can access it and then also grow the population naturally.
Canada could be heading into economic dysfunction. Check this out. This recent report from the Bank of Canada warns of severe consequences of a global trade war, including mortgage arrears at rates not seen since the 1990s. The report also points to other economic consequences, including increased unemployment and a further correction to asset prices as investors choose to sell off. This report actually isn't all bad news, however. It does state that payment increases will be lower than expected on mortgage renewals as interest rates continue to fall. And it also states that most mortgage holders are actually in good shape to handle higher payments. So what is all this going to mean for house prices? Let me know what you guys think down below.
Well, I mean, interest rates, they may be on the decline, but they've actually been frozen for a bit now. So we don't really know, because of the economic uncertainty because of the tariffs. We don't know if they're going to be raising the interest rates anytime soon or lowering them, because the Canadian dollar is not doing really good. So usually when the dollar isn't doing good, you don't want to lower the rates too much, because then your currency gets devalued like crazy.
Gotta listen to what Tiff Macklem has just said. If US tariffs continue to stay on Canada for a long period of time, it's going to create a downward spiral for the Canadian economy. Just listen to what he says in this video.
Now the Canadian economy and financial system face a new threat. U.S. trade policy has taken a dramatic protectionist shift. Tariffs and uncertainty have sharply reduced prospects for global economic growth, and financial markets have been rocked by chaotic policy announcements and reversals. A long-lasting trade war poses the greatest threat to the Canadian economy. It also increases risks to financial stability. There are two key concerns. In the near term, the unpredictability of U.S. trade policy could cause further market volatility and strains on liquidity. In an extreme case, market volatility could turn into market dysfunction. In the medium term, a prolonged global trade war would have severe economic consequences. It would reduce growth and increase unemployment. This could, in turn, have important ramifications for the financial system. With debt still at high levels, some households and businesses may be unable to keep up with payments. If loan losses occur on a large enough scale, banks could cut back on lending in response. This would exacerbate the economic downturn and put more pressure on businesses and households.
I don't think I've ever heard Tiff Macklem speak like this about the Canadian economy. Like, these are real warnings from the governor of the Bank of Canada. Now, I know in the past they've said things that haven't necessarily come true, so we don't know if for sure this will happen. But if it does, it's a very scary scenario.
Yeah, usually he's pretty positive. Well, not really positive. I don't want to say he's like smiling ear to ear and being happy about how good the economy is doing, but he never gives massive warnings like this. So I do think that the trade war is a bigger issue than the Bank of Canada even is trying to let on, because the Canadian economy is pretty much bankrupt and he knows it. He's trying to put on like a brave face, but I think he even knows that the Canadian economy is really cooked.
Know that unemployment in Canada has increased to 6.9%, and no, it's not a coincidence. Economists say this is a fingerprint of the new tariff imposed by the US. In April, 58,000 jobs were lost in the sectors most affected by tariffs: manufacturing, wholesale, and retail trade. Meanwhile, the little job growth we saw came from temporary hires for the federal election. In other words, not sustainable. The economics say the job market continues to weaken, which is why they expect the Bank of Canada to cut rates on June 4th. RSM Canada warns that unemployment could rise above 7% this summer, especially impacting recent graduates. RBC and Capital Economics also forecast more rate cuts this year.
We'll see. I hope there is some more rate cuts, to be honest, because my mortgage is going to be renewed in a year from now. So just stay tuned for that, because that's going to actually be the next video's topic. So yeah, mortgage renewals in Canada. Geez, feels like it's a scam. And honestly, it's a lot more stressful than just having the same mortgage for the entirety of your mortgage, which would be like 20 years in the States or 25 years. And at least you know what you're paying, right? You don't know. Every time you have to renew your mortgage, you have no idea. But again, I'm touching on another topic, and that's not the point of this video. The point was the tariffs and also the economy right now in Canada. They said 6.9% is the unemployment rate in Canada. In places like Toronto, it's closer to 10%. So that's, I don't even know how that's not a bigger deal. The fact that the biggest city in all of Canada has an unemployment rate of almost 10%. That's really scary. Anyways, I hope you at least learned something from today's video. If you did, leave your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.